I accidentally ended up making a long day out of myself. Just finished up with Mr. Todd Fromeyer, and I don't even know how to start this one. Will Wright, he is probably the most prolific songwriter that I've ever had to deal with, and I love him for it. We had a sweet, sweet rock band many, many moons ago that they may or may not still be active. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. I don't know, just we are a politics and governance podcast, and we'll probably talk about some of Will's feelings on some of the things like that. But I wanted I like to take a chance to talk to other people that aren't necessarily politicians or in the loop of the politics thing, so we can talk about other stuff like that. So we're almost in agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Find us at almostinagreement.com, and we can get all the episodes there, or in any of your major podcast providers. We are available. So check us out, give us a like, share, all that kind of bullshit, and all right, everybody, it's gonna be fun. Mr. Will, sir, how do you do?
I'm good. I think we've only talked once since you broke up with me at Applebee's.
I mean, that's fair. I don't disagree with your assessment of history. I ran away from the scene, for lack of a better word.
No, you did the right thing. It's
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. My drums are right back here behind me. I had them at a friend's house for, God, they were out of my possession. I mean, Steve had them for probably 5 years.
Yeah, that's
right. And then I got them back from him, and then had a little band that was just kind of messing around with for a little while. Just, I don't know, it's just an excuse to get together and make noise on a Friday night.
Sure.
For a little while, and then they sat there, started having kids like an idiot, and they sat at his house for a long time, and I finally went and picked him up and set him up twice in this house, I think, and then I keep breaking him down and putting him in the corner.
You turned out to be super fertile, right?
Yeah, well, there's been 2 times in the history of me and the missus that we haven't had something handy to keep kids from coming, and I have 2 kids.
Well, look at that beard. There's never any doubt about your virility.
Yeah, I've got to keep it strong.
That's right, yeah.
So
yeah. Hey.
I don't know, man. I mean, I've been paying some attention. Saw the Harry Potter rap group that did its thing. So all right, we'll start there. So Senryu is still a thing?
It is still a thing. It's going to be the 20th release 20 years later, and it's written and it's demoed, and like everything else, it was gobbled up by the virus.
Yeah.
And so it's waiting there, and I can't wait to figure it out. But yeah, I wouldn't know what to do without it.
Right. 20 albums?
20 albums.
Holy shit. What I had 2 of them. I was on 2 of them.
Yeah. You were for sure. Maybe 3. I feel like you were present for some of Down with the Sugar Pills, and that would have been 2. Yeah. You were present for some of Down with the Sugar Pills, so 2. It was that's 10%. That's 10%.
I'll take it. It's a win. I did Stars and Garters, and what was the other one? What was the first one?
That was the first one.
Stars and Garters was the first one?
Yep.
What was the second one?
Down with the Sugar. I mean, I think the second one for you was Down with the Sugar Pills. I made one right after everything kind of spiraled out, and then we I guess I know you were present for tracking that one because I have I'm like seeing it in my memory. So I'm giving you 10%.
Okay. Because I did we did
the history book on this is going to be loosey goosey. So.
Right. Well, we did the one album that guy. The first album we did was in that basement studio in Seymour.
Yeah.
And then
pretty strange experience.
Right. That was great. I had a great time. And then the second one we did was at that guy right off of Paper Mill.
Okay, that's Bath and Broken Glass.
Yeah, that's what. Yes.
Maybe 3. Maybe whatever 3 is of 20.
Okay. So. 20, 10, 12 and a half, maybe 12.5%. Sure, I'll take it.
Awesome. Yeah.
I mean, that was my favorite part. Studio was my favorite part. I could have given a shit less about performance. I was always just the studio stuff. I always wanted to make. I didn't care about showing it off.
Yeah.
I feel that was my jam.
I have floated more and more that direction to the point now where I would rather just write it and file it and never even I am so heavy on I really don't write songs much anymore. Like it's kind of a ritual to make a Senryu album one after another, but I'm not, my music is kind of like, it's not so much songs anymore. And so, yeah, I think you put 20 records out, you have taken your turn. And so it's weird. It hadn't really occurred to me until recently. I'm not really writing songs anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that was always, I think, like, looking back at it, like, I was never a writer. That wasn't my jam anyway. I was a contributor at best, and I was happy with that. But I guess I didn't know any better at the time either. It felt specifically efficient to me. Like we could just churn something out. And that was you. That wasn't. I mean, that was not any of the other bodies in the room. We had our parts in place. We had our parts to play, and not necessarily that you wrote the parts for us. There were some times where you're like, play this thing, and I was like, okay. It's like, here's the tune, play what you want to play with it, and that's what we did. And I mean, I wouldn't say I miss it, but I miss the premise of it. Like I miss the idea of like just I miss the creation. I think that's why I think I've fallen so hard into doing this. Like I love doing this podcast.
Yeah, I can tell you do, and that's. I will say that. Yeah. Again, like I wouldn't know what to do. I think it's like people that go to church so long, it's not really like a decision to go to church anymore. You know what I mean? Like on Sunday at 10 or whatever, they're going to be there. And so that's what the album making process is for me. And so it has like, even over the whole course of it, it has continued to be super efficient, and I think the reason it worked for you and me, it's the same reason it works for me and Steven, and with Dan and Andres McCormack is that they are all makers, you know what I mean? And so, anyone that will like ride the ride with me, I think it can be really efficient, and it can be really, really satisfying. And we're all very old now. And so people don't even expect you to play show after show after show, which is fabulous because I don't want to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I had, Lauren Ryder on, she's City Council District 2 or something like that. And we were talking about this baseball stadium project, and she has family in Fort Wayne, which is Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is what everybody references for the copy, what we're trying to copy here with this project. And we were just shooting the shit or whatever, and I was like, I don't know how it came up, but it was like the distance between Ohio and Indiana. And I was like, yeah, I went on tour with my band one time, and we went and played Columbus, and then we played Indianapolis. And I was like, yeah, Columbus, Indianapolis, they're not that far apart, like 6 hours fucking later in the middle of the night. And speaking of, Dan Davis was running for city council, that bass player from Once Upon a Time. I ran into him at a political meeting. The small world that we live in, I suppose.
Yeah.
But that little random tour that we did, and just trying to I don't know, every once in a while there's just something that brings it back and just reminds me of that time. And I have no regrets about any parts of it. There's if I could have changed anything, I would have spent more time in the studio, but that studio was money back then, and we didn't have that by any stretch.
That's for sure. I mean, I think that's why, like it's been one of those things where people have, I think Dan and Andres have been in for a decade, maybe a decade and a couple of years, and Steven never left, but there have been other people that have come and gone, but like, like when you left, it really hurt, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like both of us, and it's like, it's not because it wasn't time, but the things we did together were significant, and it's a significant age, and we're great friends, and these are the reasons I think the only pure reasons to do those things. It's all stressful and expensive, and it's always, yikes. Did I glitch out?
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's always such a, yeah, I completely agree. I wish we had made 10 more records together. That's always the best part.
Right.
Yeah. All the rest of it is just promotion.
Yeah.
And that just absolutely like peels my skin off. And that's the stuff that pulls people apart, I think, because promotion makes you have to worry about money. And when you start worrying about money, you have to start worrying about whose money. And then it's gross, and there's a lot of, like, you also have a lot of life to cram into those 2 decades. You know what I mean? And I stayed down the rabbit hole, and I'm probably cost me a lot, probably cost me other things, that I'm doing what I was always going to do, and as much as it was sad to see the end of our time come, like, you had a lot of life to do, and a bunch of that has nothing to do with playing the drums, no matter how fun it is to make records. And so, and it's hard, endings are hard, and that, and here we are,
right.
And we're alive and I'm super happy to see your face, and it feels like no time at all.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's been, like, I don't know, like, I that was the thought process is like, there was a twinge in the back of my head. Is it going to be weird? Probably. It's been, I mean, legitimately 15 years.
Something like that.
And it's like, but at the same time, it's like I would hope in that 15 years that there's a separate growth, but understanding of who we were and who we are and where we're going and where we're not going and stuff like that. And so, I mean, I would just on a general, like, life philosophy thing, like, there's not I can't think back of a step that I really failed at. I could think of failures and things that I screwed up, but that there's no change there. There's nothing that there's no undoing the value from the experience, of any of it. I would like to be playing more, regardless of with who, just because I just don't have the time in the life currently. But like, I haven't played in like 2 years. Like, I actually picked up a pair of sticks and played, but, I don't know, like, it's especially for, I don't know, maybe it's the same for you, but for me, it's like, I want to create, and not like, I don't have the chops anymore, and to take, like, and I mean, and it's a laziness, I guess, on my part, is that to take the time to get the chops back to be able to create. I don't know if I want to put forth the effort. Drummers
are to rock and roll bands as like catchers are to baseball teams. I think, like, you're just talking about a completely different skill set than the rest of the guys on the field, and you're talking about a different kind of wear and tear on the body. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, depending on, I mean, I don't think there's any reason you couldn't be playing, but I mean, it's always just a matter of time and energy, right? You have two children. A bunch of that energy that would be going into the drums is going to go into, like, being a dad. Right.
Don't die today, please. Then that's a win.
Exactly right. I got somebody to feed. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a priority thing now in a different way than it was then. And it would be a joy, and it would be a thing I would like to do, but versus the thing that it replaces is not, it doesn't add up currently for me. And that's, and I don't have issue with it. And I think that's, again, why I've jumped so deep into the podcast. This is my new way to create, and I don't have to work my forearms out to do it.
Yeah. People who are makers, I think the product is outweighed by the process, right? We love the process. Right. And yeah, so whether it's playing the drums or making a podcast or anything else, like, I'm always going to be making, my wife is always making, and, like, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's like, I would like to be playing the guitar more, but I probably play the guitar once every 3 or 4 months. You know, it's like, I would like to be traveling, but it's all a matter of the economy. You know, you've got emotional currency, actual currency, time. You know, there's a whole economy to adulthood that in your early 20s is just like, well, we're going to stay up for 4 days. Who cares?
Right.
Like,
we're going to eat mushrooms, go to the movie. And
that's what,
get really, really freaked out.
Yeah. And it just doesn't matter, you know, like, and that's why you do it. And that's the thing is, as sad as, you know, again, like endings, especially good eras ending, you know, we had a blast. It's sad, but it's not inappropriate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
I've always liked finishing, you know, finishing versus ending, you know, and I feel like that part we finished, you know, and that doesn't mean it's sad, but we finished. Yeah. You know, you can want more, but you finished and now you're doing something else.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. That's a good semantics way to kind of put it into proper context. And so you brought it up. I don't know. Do you want to joke about our, like, because the small world business of the world in general, and I guess our worlds recolliding in a number of ways. We have the Steven issue, and me diving into school board stuff and Steven's activity in the school board things, and then we have your wife and my prior employer issues. Which one do you want to do first? Because it's crazy. Okay, so we'll start with the wife one. All right.
Sure.
How much do you know of me through her?
None.
I
mean, yeah, like.
Oh, that hurts my feelings. I figured I'd be a bigger story in the family.
Oh yeah,
not your family, her family.
Yeah, it's been pretty, like, I don't know. She and I are a good match because we are hermits, and so and that means we just, like, with the exception of like family functions and like now we're working at home. It's not even an office thing, but there's not really, we don't talk about anything really that happens outside of our house. Like we're literally like, we're making things and we're together and we're parenting, and like, it's a very, very solitary. And but
you're at her mom's house tonight, right?
I am there now.
Okay. So are Toe or Ty there?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. it was full earlier.
Because Ty's back because Ty left for California for a couple of years after I left my part of that family.
Yeah, and so here's the one time that, like I mentioned, I can't remember. The story of you happened before we pieced together that I know you, and it was. I feel like we were talking about maybe Toe came and saw Peak Physique, and the bass like rattled his body, and he's like I got to be careful, man, because that's how you end up having kids. And he said, I had a friend who somebody slapped him in the butt really hard one night, and after that the kids started coming. And somehow we pieced together that it was you.
And right, the Jason Ellis was who he was talking about.
Oh.
Yeah, when I was working for them, I nut checked Jason Ellis, and like 2 days later he got his wife pregnant, or his girlfriend at the time, now wife, pregnant. And it's still my fault, I guess.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, it was that was one of those, like, I was hammered, he was hammered, and I didn't mean to really hit him, but I really fucking hit him.
Yeah, you shook him loose.
Yeah, and so yeah, then it's like he's like 2 or 3 kids in now.
Yeah, so I say that anyway. That was the connect. That somehow that story is how I learned that you had worked with him, and that was that. I think that's when we talked about it. So gotcha. I haven't talked to. That was it. Yeah. Okay.
Because I mean, same kind of thing we were talking about earlier. Like, in like things finish and they finish when they finish, and it's time to move on. And sometimes external factors kind of force the hand to push forward. And that was with them. Like, I have zero desire to frequent their business, but I have zero hate for it. Like, I was mad at him. I was mad at him at the time, and I still have like there's still issues there that I don't like, but again, going back to kind of the reference earlier, is there's not a lot of things that I'm going to say I regret. That if I regret them, then I somehow didn't learn something from it.
Sure.
And so like, I own a business now. I have employees now, and there are specific things that I let them do to me as an employee that I will not give my employees an opportunity to let me do to them.
Okay.
And so like I let them take advantage of me. It was my fault. And I can't hate them for that, but I also am not going to let any of my employees get into a place, where that's a situation that could happen. And so, it's again, the small world thing. It's like, I won't say I've been stalking you on Facebook, but like we've been friends on Facebook for like 10 years. We just haven't really directly interacted. And so like, I've seen your posts about different things that have been going on. And then the epiphany to me is like, I know her. I've seen her before. I've met her. I've hung out with her. I've been in the room with her. We've done things, cause like I was at a point when I was working for him where I was like, I'm right on the edge of family. I'm not family, but I'm right on the edge of family. Like I know all of them. I know all the inner workings of who's where and what's going on and the temple out there and all the cool things that they do. And the fucking noodle bowls are the shit. If they would just stop everything else and just do more noodle bowls everywhere, I think that's a win.
Sure.
You can't, and so like I felt like I was part of that thing, and that's kind of what crushed it for that. That was the most heartbreaking thing about it to me, is that like I had invested in them as a family, and I didn't get it back. And I felt like that was a hard, like same kind of deal we were talking about earlier. Like it was a heartbreaking thing. It's like this thing needs to finish. The reality is the finish is here, and I don't want that, but that's the right move. And so that's what it was from there. And so, for a while there, I wanted them to all burn and die, but anymore, I'm like, they do their thing. I'm happy for them. I'm not mad at them anymore. I had a spat of hatred, but the real story is that, we were where we were. And, if I look back at it now, it's like, I made mistakes too. I can't hold that all against them. So, I don't know. It's just mind blowing that to me, that's what brought me back to you. And it's now taken like 5 more years since to bring up the need to the excuse to talk to you.
Sure.
So, I don't know. That's what I got for there. What's next?
You're the driver.
No, I'm hammered, buddy. I'm drinking hard.
Oh.
I was so disappointed that you got busy doing something else. I just started drinking. No, I don't know. Like, I've gotten to some spats with Steve over education issues, but
talk about that. What's the dynamic?
Oh, I don't know. Like, I mean, it was just one of those accidentally things. I started doing the podcast. I started talking to school board people and stuff like that. And there's a Facebook group that he's an admin for, and like he goes by Stephen Michael, and I don't know who Stephen Michael is. And then that's him. Yeah. And then it clicked because, I know him as Captain America, not Stephen Michael. But,
sure, of course.
Yeah. And so
I think when you're an educator, there's I guess anytime you kind of have to, when you're trying to build a, like social profiles are supposed to be a place where you can kind of be yourself, but also when you have a responsibility to be someone as an educator, but then want to be someone as an adult, I guess you have to figure out a way to partition. I think that's why some people.
Right. I have no issue that it's just one of those, like, it is one of those, like, it didn't click until it clicked. And then I was like, oh shit, I know this guy. I've known this guy for years.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he's intense about it. I don't really intense. Like,
say again.
I said he's really passionate, really intense about it.
Yeah. And I mean, I can respect it 100%. Especially if I go back to some of my educators, especially musically, when I was a student, some of that, some of the most influential, impactful people in my life, especially, were music educators for me. And so I can respect him wanting to keep that as a thing. And again, for me in the podcast and what we do on the show, trying to, I am just a guy like that never paid attention ever. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Like I got kids in the school system. I've got, I'm paying my taxes. I'm doing my thing. And like all this stuff's happening around me and I don't really know what's going on. And so I started digging into it. And so people that are deeper into it than me, and Stephen being a great example of it on at least the school board side of things, it's a resource for me. I want to understand. I want to know, there's all these things that are happening and who has control over them, who's making these decisions. How do we, especially when it's an elected office kind of thing, how do we get better involved in understanding it? Because when you get to somebody like Steve, who's been in it for, 20 years now, he went straight out of college. He's been teaching at least at some level in Knox County since we got out of school. And, he's neck deep in it. But for somebody like me that walked away from it when I got out and went into the other things that I've been doing, and then it's like, hey, I want to get back into this. I want to understand what's going on. I'm not actually an educator. I'm just a parent. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. To have a resource of somebody that knows more than what's going on, it's a value to me. And so, like, I haven't had a chance to talk to him. I'd like to have him on the show too, just because he is very, what was the word you used?
Passionate and intense.
Yeah. I want to extremely well informed, like deeply, like swimming in it. Like, right. Cause that's the problem. I mean, that's really the problem, is that the general public is not informed about what's going on. I mean, I have the assistant to the chancellor of schools, or whatever the job title is, telling me that I'm the smartest person in Knox County about how the state funding works for schools. Mm-hmm. That's a problem. I don't know anything.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it might be simultaneously problematic and true. So,
right. That's the scary part, is it might be true. Yeah. And that's what freaked me out when he said it. It's like, like I'm not trying to call myself an idiot, but like, I'm not I don't have the history of it. Like I haven't spent time trying to pay attention and I guess I'm a fast learner in the sense that we've been doing this for a year and I've picked up a lot of things, but I think normal people out there don't have a year to spend on it. I mean, how old are your kids?
I've got one. She's 9, but she's homeschooled. So
okay. That's the right way. Do it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're lucky we got to be in the situation. So she was private and now she's homeschooled, and I am not sad to be missing all the quagmire of it all.
So, have you talked to Steve about vouchers?
No, I mean, I really don't talk to him about this stuff. Because it's not really a part of my life, and it seems to be, he seems really fiery about it. And so I'm a better conversation for things that I know about.
Well, because I mean, the thing to me in the situation that you are describing is that you are you're a family who's decided to do it the way you're doing it, but you're paying your taxes. You're paying for my kids. You're paying for my kids to go to school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's okay. You can owe me.
But I'm not going to owe you.
That's fine too.
I'm just saying, like like I get at least the conversation piece of saying, hey, I don't like the school system. I don't want to be in the part of the school system. I'm going to teach my kids. You do your thing. I'll do mine. But I'm still paying for it. Well, the inverse of the example is that you're still paying for it because you've chosen to do it the way you're doing. And sure. I'm open to the idea of
opting out,
of having a conversation of how to make that equitable for a family like yours who's decided not to participate in the game, but you're still paying for it. Should you not get some sort of return because you're not part of it? I don't know. And specifically the Facebook group that I've infiltrated for the podcast's sake, they are super, super anti-voucher. If you even bring up the idea that you're cool with vouchers, they freak out.
Yeah, that's a hot topic.
Yeah, and for me, it's like, I'm not saying I'm pro voucher. I'm pro conversation about doing something differently than what we're doing now. Sure. And vouchers is on that list of things that is something different, because there's enough people that have problems with the way things are that continuing down the road because we don't have a better answer, because we're not willing to listen, is not a solution.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I don't want to call myself apathetic, but I spend so much of my
I'm pretty sure you wrote. I'm pretty sure you wrote a song about me and my apathy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the word we used was like stoicism, though, and that's stoicism is not apathy, and so I mean, I spend so much of my time. Yeah, I don't know. It all seems like such a it's a percentage basis. It doesn't because it doesn't affect us. It's harder for me to get wound up about.
And I think you're 100% dead on. I think there's a general apathy from even the public that is involved in these things that we're talking about.
Yeah, because
I mean, that was me. I was that guy.
Yeah. So I think we live in such, and it's ridiculous to say it, but it's true. We live in such a safe age. And we live in such a prosperous corner of the earth that so much. Yeah, I think, and this is I know this is normally a political podcast, so this is a little bit of a deflating thing to say, but I think so much of these conversations, from my perspective, it's like a spectator sport. You know what I mean? Like, we're not fussing over whether or not the boys from the village should go off to fight with the militias. We're arguing over a percentage of my taxes and which direction it goes, when it's yeah. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's not my thing. And so I think he would be a great guest. And I think, honestly, it's the point of this is to get to a conversation point. It might be a fiery one or whatever, but I think it would be, I would show up and watch with unblinking eyes.
Right.
Because yeah, I think both of you guys are wicked smart. And I think obviously both of you have a vested interest in, as a parent and as an educator. And to me, that's the main event. Two smart people that have, that sit on opposite sides of the same table, who are interested in coming to some kind of new, more functional system. Message him tonight. Get him. Yeah, I can talk about some things, but I always
get the feel, the couple times I've chatted with him on through Facebook or whatever, I always get the feel that he's too damn busy. That's the reality of who I think he is right now.
Yeah, we're all stupid busy, but
true.
It's if the point of this is to get to some kind of new plateau, that's your guy. If we're talking about school stuff,
right,
that's the guy you've got to talk to.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you're both super smart, you have vested interest, and you don't agree. And so in that you probably have a really good access point to some kind of uncharted territory. All
right, fair enough. All right, Stephen Michael Rogers is on the agenda. I'll get him on the show.
Yeah.
I'm busy. I got to meet Mayor Kane today. That was fun. Didn't get him on the show, but I ran into him on the street, and I was like, "Hey, you're Mayor Kane. You need to be on my show too." But we'll get to that point.
Yeah, he is large. He's a large person.
I was a little unimpressed, to be honest.
Well,
I'm a large dude too, so
it's true. He wasn't as large to you as he was to me.
Yeah, perspective is a thing.
I have a smaller skeleton than you do.
Yeah, I'm saying perspective is real, and and that's one of the things about doing this that's been most impactful for me is that there's a lot of stuff that I've talked about and I've had conversations with people on the side about that I didn't think about. I didn't really put real perspective. I didn't realize that I didn't have a good perspective on a certain situation. And there's a number of examples or whatever, but just not realizing the idea that, just for our silly little example, is that you are a smaller person than me. And so you in the presence of Mayor Kane is different than me in the presence of Mayor Kane. He's a big dude. And he's buff, don't get me wrong, but he's about my height. He's probably about my weight. It's just his is all muscle, and he could probably kill me versus me being a little chubby. But if nothing else from doing this show, I've gotten a better ability to at least kind of feel other perspectives that I can't quite understand. like we got into I was talking to Gwen McKenzie, and like, like this redlining thing that Knoxville used to do, there was a big, negative political issue, and we are where we are now, but blah, 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 blah. Is that like we get into generational wealth, and that's one of those things that is a reality, and that there are generations of people that didn't get the opportunity to do so because of actions that were taking place in the past. And so like I was one of those people that was very dismissive of racial issues in today's conversation. And through doing this show and talking to different people, I was like, hold on a second, I actually get it.
Yeah, generational wealth. I mean, we're still so new. Like we the white population are so new to the idea of like what actual privilege and what actual generational wealth, the impact of those things. You know what I mean? And the shape that those things take. It's not like the beginning and the end of the conversation, but they are real things. And they're actually like, they do take time to process how they ripple.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, yeah, it's like I mean, I can make jokes about how like like my grandmother's not dead yet, so I haven't gotten her money yet. But there's a yet there, where there's tons of people that are my age that their grandparents have already died, and there's nothing to yet in the conversation. Where I have a yet with my parents. I don't get that yet. I'd rather have my parents. Don't get me wrong. I'd rather have them alive than to have whatever they're going to leave me in post. But, I wouldn't have, without doing this, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to really rationalize what that means. That there are generations of people that don't have a yet to talk about.
Right. The now, not even the now is guaranteed. It's been now to now for 10 generations.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah. And that's, and again, meme-based philosophy, politically speaking, doesn't give a shit about it, but even not caring that it exists, but understanding that it does is a difference in kind that I didn't think I was capable of, honestly.
Sure.
Like, I didn't think I mean, I see the value in having the conversation about it, but we still have to go beyond what the past conversation is, to get to the next, the future thing. All right. We got back into politics, which wasn't the intent with what we were doing here. So, you're going to Russia? You're trying to go to Russia? What's going on with Russia?
I'm not sure. Well, it came together too late. I'm going to do it virtually. I'm going to be studying and, writing music for the International New Music Festival in St. Petersburg, Russia next week. And it'll be 2 weeks. So
does that mean you're a communist? What's going on here?
I think this all might be way after the fact, but no, it just means that I am a lucky dude who writes music. But yeah, it's a cool thing. I was also supposed to go to Milan to study film music in July, and that will also be virtual because we're still kind of wading through it.
Right.
But if the Russia thing, I would have gone. And the real snag is that the government got a holiday from the 1st to the 10th. And so that would have been my window to get a expedited visa.
Right.
And so I was going to go, and it's going to be awesome anyways. I finished my piece that I'm workshopping 2 nights ago, and it's pretty grimy. It's it's called Along the Lines of Our Conversation, a complete failure of humanity. But it's just about not knowing how to treat each other, even with thousands of years of perspective.
Right.
We're like our conversation here, we're like, and then it occurred to me, what about generational wealth? Do you know how many generations in we are?
Fair enough, right?
So, anyways, it's all very funny because also next week I'm premiering a piece in America about coming together and succeeding as a species, and premiering a piece in St. Petersburg, Russia about total collapse.
I mean, yeah, that's that is the value of art in and of itself, right there. Is that there's
we're gonna look all the way through it.
yeah, we're gonna build it up and poke holes in it at the same time.
That's right. And a thing can be two things.
Yeah,
like we talked about earlier. Yeah,
yeah. That's I mean, that's really cool. Like I'm infinitely fascinated with with what you have been doing in the sense that like. All right, so like I love the Lil Iffy, is that right? Lil Iffy, is that done? Are you retired, Lil Iffy? Is he done?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I did a show last year just because somebody asked me to, but yeah, I finished in 2015, and it was not, and I finished,
right?
It was a lot of people had a lot of fun with it. I did not have I wouldn't say I had a lot of fun with it, but I think we had a lot of success. And it was one of those things where I'm still pursuing, like at the time anyway, like I'm still pursuing a professional musician's life. Right. And so if that's the thing that I know for, we can go out for a month and people will show up no matter where we go.
Right.
That's what I have to do, And so it's like, we don't all do the jobs we choose,
Yeah, for sure.
So, like
100%.
That's the job I got for 5 years, and it was like it brought a lot of happiness to a lot of people. And then you're 35, and you're like,
You're Harry Potter rapping. Oh no, we lost him. Come back, Will. All right. Well, I'm gonna talk to myself. If you guys don't know, Lil Iffy was a Harry Potter rap group. That Will was Lil Iffy, and they rapped about Harry Potter stuff. I hope he can come back. That was really a bummer.
You have to be like, I'm done. I'm 35. I'm not rapping another day of my life. And it's like it's difficult because I have a million bad ideas that people would probably show up and have a great time with, but it's just one of those things where I would put my lowly regrets up against anybody. I feel like I've got maybe even lower than zero regrets because everything I've done has kind of started the next thing, and none of the things that have come after the thing before would be possible without the rest of it.
Right.
And, and stopping when I stopped put me in a position to get my shit together a little more at home. Like I've been on the road either with Daniel Hart or doing Iffy for most 10 years at that point. And, because I stopped when I stopped, I got a lot of good time in with Ruthie. I got a lot of good time I met my wife, and she and her family are the best thing that ever happened to me. And on top of like,
right, I'm not mad at her family either, to be fair.
Sorry?
I love her family too, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, business is tricky, but like being around them, I think it's an objective thing like this, these are really like a really special group, but also, she probably saved my life in a lot of ways because if I don't get my shit together when I do, it's only going to be a matter of time before I take another one of those bad ideas out on the road. And then suddenly you're 45 and you're in some terrible parody act. And then you're 55 and you're in something worse, but because things happened the way it did, when I went to UT back in the back,
right.
Like I went to be a composer, and now I am really doing that. Right. And it feels awesome, and it feels like without 20 Senryu records, without 5 lost years rapping about wizardry, and without sports writing, without peak physique, without all these things, and without the pressure of parenthood, I wouldn't be, I feel like right now I'm in the process of really like maximizing my potential, and it's something that I think everybody, in a lot of ways, and parenthood, I think does that better than anything does. You have to be on your A game,
yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't matter what your job is, if you're a composer or if you're a garbage collector or if you're a brain surgeon or whatever, like your A game, you know what I mean? You're going to have days when you're not on your A game, right? But it's not going to cost anybody any, like, that's not going to, nobody's life is in the balance unless you're a brain surgeon. Right. But like, but they have off days, but when you're a parent, being a parent really forces you into a space where it's like, just shut the fuck up and do your best. Yeah. You know, like you actually don't have a choice here. Yeah. So just shut the fuck up and like,
yeah, you know? No, yeah, that is the best summation of parenthood that I think I've ever heard.
Yeah. And I feel so lucky, you know, like I'm writing music today that I couldn't write if I wasn't a dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm trudging through shit that's above my pay grade because that's what parenthood is. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know how to answer this question for you, but it's important. And so I'm going to have to just shut the fuck up and like balance a complete lie and complete truth to deliver important information in a way that's not going to keep you up tonight. Right. And that's the hardest job on earth.
Yeah.
You know, and if you can do that, you can write a symphony. Like write a symphony. Like I write a symphony in my sleep now easier than I can go and explain what happens after we die.
Yeah.
There are a couple of ideas.
My younger has gotten on the kick of that existential crisis of what happens when we die. And it's like, dude, I mean, like that's the answer. Is like, which version do you want? I don't know how to go about this. You know, we could play different religious games. We can do all sorts of different things, but when it comes down to it, is today. Today's what matters. You did today. Yeah. Let's go into tomorrow. Let's figure out what's going on tomorrow.
Yeah.
After that, we'll figure out that when we get there.
Yeah, and one day I'll die and I'll haunt you and I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah. But probably not, because you're not going to understand it, because somehow I can't speak English anymore or something.
Right, yeah. I'm destroying any hope of my spirit living beyond the veil right now.
Yeah.
But no, but the reality of it all is like, it's just like, you know, we started this whole conversation I guess it was Ruby Tuesdays. Right. But like every single thing happens.
I know bullshit. It was Applebee's, because there's no way I went to a Ruby's.
I'm into it. It's again like, well, we can debate George Washington's wooden teeth, but I don't know. And so the point is, everything happens exactly how it happens, right. And no amount of regret or retrospect changes any of it,
right?
And you know, everything about your life is linear, right? It's like right. And that's the lesson, you know. And it's like, it's our job to teach these kids, but really, like, you're teaching yourself. Yeah. You know, and like, yeah, this is your one chance to kind of like, it's like an exit exam, right? Like you've done the life, and now your kids are conducting they're your proctor, and right. And the real lesson there is, you know, yeah, it's all perfect because it's the only version you get.
Exactly, because I can't remember who was who it was. I think it was a Joe Rogan thing. I listen to the Rogan podcast regularly. He repeats the phrase, the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And your version of that is not the same as my version of that. You know, your kid's version of that is not the same as your version of that. You know, and so like you could try as you might to explain how terrible this thing that you went through was, but there's no value there's no comparative value to another person in what that is. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Well, that other person's version of the worst thing that's ever happened to them could be 10 times, objectively, it could be 10 times worse than your version, but comparatively, it's not. To you, it is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And how do we translate that? And again, the parent thing, that's the thing that's the hardest to try to, that's the hardest thing about being a parent, is like, there are worse things that happen to me. And how do I teach you how to avoid those things and have you understand the value of what the worst thing that's ever happened to you is? because my worst is worse than your worst, or your worst is more than my worst, or whatever. Like there's that it is specific to the person what the worst thing that's ever happened to you is. And that idea, I completely butchered the premise in trying to throw it out there, but that idea is something that I don't think we think about generally, is that when we're interacting with other people, we have no idea what the worst thing that's ever happened to them is. And their worst could be their worst could be nothing. Their worst could be a random insult or something like that, versus a real worst is that their parent had murdered in front of them or something. I don't know.
Sure. There are people out there whose children are school shooters.
Right.
There are worse. There are lower hells. There is always a lower hell.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that I really I really try to keep hold of when I'm, especially in dealing with the kids, and trying to understand how to instill some value to, but also understand that I can't, there's no way until they get their own version of a worst that I can't do anything about. Like, I just can't do that. Like that's the hardest thing about parenting to me, is there's a certain amount of things that I can't do anything about until they get their version of. And it's heartbreaking as a parent to try to rationalize that. I can't stop the bad. I can't undo the bad. And the bad is needed. And I don't want it for them, but it has to happen.
I mean, yeah, the worst thing that happened, like, let's say we had a picnic planned today and there was a rainstorm.
Right.
And we don't get to have our picnic today. Well, that's the worst thing that happened today, and even though it's small, it's still number one,
Right.
And so that's a life, some people witness heinous acts, and some people have to go to war and see these things professionally, and some people lose children, and some people, and worse,
right.
Some people go through decades of cancer,
right.
And it's like, if you ask them what the worst thing that ever happened to them is, though, you still don't get to decide that it's the cancer, right? And it's and that's something it's difficult to teach, but it's easy to experience in collaboration. Yeah. And so I think that's how you have to parent. Like, we are in this.
Yeah.
You are mine and I am yours, and we are in this. And some days it will be a picnic that gets rained out, and some days it will be something else.
Yeah.
And the trick isn't you can't prepare. The trick is to understand that whatever version of figuring it out is, we will do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very well said. I mean, yeah, it's ride the wave, do the thing. I mean, just deal with it as it's here. And we're going to deal.
You cannot get ahead of the big stuff. If you have enough money and enough time and enough perspective, it still comes and it still hits you right between the eye. And that's just how it is.
Yeah, for sure. How about
and that's hard. It's a hard lesson for a kid that's still learning how to tie shoes.
Yeah, yeah. And like, I don't know. It's like, and again, like I'm a big Rogan fan. People listen to the show regularly. I reference Rogan all the time. He talks about like his favorite people are the people that had the worst. Like his favorite people to hang out with, his best friends are the people that had the worst upbringing. And there's value to the struggle, and that's one of those things that, like, especially as a parent, it's like, how do you? And again, he talks about it too. He's like, as a parent, like, I don't know how to value that. Like, it's weird. Is my favorite people, the people I love the most, the people I want to be near and around, are the people that have had the most struggle. But I don't want my kids to have the struggle.
Right.
How do I balance that?
I don't think hopefully their favorite friends will be the people that have this struggle. Every person's struggles differently. Yeah. Like you struggled more than other person, and that person has struggled more than someone else, and everybody's somebody's reference.
Right. And it's a different struggle too. It's just, I think that's one of the things that, me trying to play with that idea is that the difference of the struggle isn't necessarily worse, but it's perceivable worse. Does that make sense? Like the struggle that I had with the thing, to you might be a weird struggle, but to somebody else might be a normal struggle. And
Sure.
so like all of our struggles combined make a different relationship struggle. And so when we all look at everybody's struggle together, it has value. And so it's, I don't know, I guess it's one of those things that I guess that's one of the things that the value of people and communication, is that we get to all experience everybody else's struggle.
Yeah.
And so it's not,
the worst is the worst. Like just because you haven't had terminal cancer and I haven't been to war doesn't mean that my worst experience doesn't cut me up. Right. And so people know what it feels like to be cut up, and these are the things that fix us together, like, somebody out there watching this or listening to this hates how they look. And it's the deepest hell for them. Right. Right. And just because that might seem vain to someone who has terminal cancer. Right. It doesn't mean that it feels different. Right. And that's the thing that I've struggled with personally, trying to get to that level of understanding of other people's struggle. And I think that's important. And I think that's one of the things that we societally don't take into account, that that just because there is some sort of perceived standard of struggle, that one isn't worth more than the other. And I think that's one of the things we got to get. We have to get over, in understanding that, my worst is not your worst isn't my worst, and blah 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 blah, and it goes down the line. But that there is a worst, and then we got to get used to being perceptible to other people's version of bad. Right. We're not all on the same scoreboard. Yeah. It's not a race. It's not a race to the most pain, and it's like, and maybe this is the similar thing to what you'll talk about with your political guests, or when you and Steven talk. I think they're people that have a mindset that it's this existential pissing contest, right. Like, I think people on the political binary, or people on, people in these thick conversations about what to do with education, things like that. I think there is a cultural, popular line of thought that someone on one side of this is a villain, and doesn't want what's best for kids. Yeah. That one side is wearing a white hat and the other side is wearing a black mask, and that it's not just people who want things to be better. There are greedy people out there, and there are people who are like self-serving and like power players out there, but it's probably not going to be on your podcast. It's probably not going to be between a parent and a teacher. Right. These are two of the most powerless people on the planet. Right. And so, but they have the most important roles, and that is to say, I, like, as much as I do not have any desire to be a part of those debates, I do think the power belongs in the hands of the people that it affects the most, and so that's the system I could get into. Right. I think that's one of those things. It's like, where it's too much of the sellability of the argument. It's too much of the, I don't know. It's too much of the people that don't actually make a difference in the game that somehow have the most value in the game. Sure. They probably were a seed investor. Yeah. And it's generational wealth. Yeah. We're not paying attention to, and again, I mean, on the very broad political scheme of things, we're too busy arguing about things that don't really matter. There's a shell game at hand. We're playing the 3-card Monte 9 times out of 10. We're arguing about
I mean, I have no issues with the LGBTQ community or whatever, but we're arguing about bathroom usage when we've got kids getting shot in school.
Right.
It's
exactly correct.
Really,
it's a nothing burger.
Right.
And it's specifically designed, because everything in the information war, everything is about signal and noise.
Yeah.
And our ability to distinguish those things, that is the real mother tongue now. And people who can distinguish the signal from the noise are a problem for the power structure. And so I think that's something that we just got a really vivid dose of over the last four and change years, is the power of noise.
Right.
And you can get away with a lot.
Yeah. Well, because one of the things to me is we've been trying really hard to follow state issues and stuff going on, and it's this thing's so damn complicated. I mean, it's just
really complicated.
It's so complicated, and the question is why. There's two reasons, and it's probably a mix of both. It's that it's complicated because we have 200 plus years of state history that are piled on top of, and then we have intentional, we're going to make it complicated. But both of those things together make it so that the people that know how to be inside of it can do what they want to do, and it's hard to pay attention. And it's not a what do they say? It's not a glitch. It's a feature. Right, exactly. Because I mean, for me, that's the goal of the podcast, is that this thing is complicated, not necessarily intentionally, but the powers that play aren't trying to uncomplicate it either. They have no desire to take apart, because I know how to play in it. And if I know how to play in it, then you're not going to see what I'm doing because it's too damn complicated.
Right. And, think about any of these budgets.
Yeah.
Right. You're talking about, we want the people in the street to fight over something, a passion cause. We're gonna fuss over, can we fix the post office, right? And we're really gonna fight about it, and that is maybe a fraction of 1% of this bill, right? A fraction of 1% of the budget. And by the time we finish fighting about the post office, all this other shit has passed through the filter, and It's too late, right? And that's how it works,
right?
And so, we're again, I love the idea of a structure where the power is actually in the hands of the people that are affected the most, and I think we can get there. I mean, I think, I don't think there's a clean way there, but, I think people are learning how to play smarter.
Right.
If you look at Wall Street bets,
right,
or whatever, people have never been smarter and have never seen the power structure more clearly. And so now these systems that have been a money machine for that generational wealth for so long, guess what? All these poor people got real smart watching the fucking internet.
Right.
And now we know how to work the locks,
right?
And I feel like the actual villains have been a bit exposed as powerful but pretty stupid over the last a couple of years, and everybody's pretty hungry for things to make sense. And so I think the motivation of the podcast is similar. I think everyone is ready to understand better, and I think smart people are ready to kind of put a stamp on the next part of the conversation. Yeah, and I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I do too, and I think I'm hopeful that that I could be a part of that for the show's sake. But I mean, because I think we're playing a game that I think people are starting to see through the noise. I think people are starting to see that the noise is intentional, where it was before, it was it was easy to get caught up in the noise, and it still is for some measure. But I think there's something to the idea that we don't want to play the game anymore the way the game's supposed to be played.
It actually isn't very fair. And now we understand it better than we ever have.
Yeah.
We understand what's mandatory.
Right.
We understand what's negotiable. You know what I mean? And regardless of what side of the conversation about police brutality you fall on or whatever, you know what I mean? The methods are getting better results than they've ever gotten, right? The methods, or let's not say better, but the methods have kind of risen to the temperature, if that makes sense. Sometimes quiet is not enough, and sometimes, sometimes speaking truth to power is messy and difficult. But I think people are learning what it actually costs and what it actually means to challenge the power structure. And that's kind of revolutionary. And you see that on a lot of fronts, on a lot of topics. And I think it's all as much a spectator as I can be. I'd like to think of myself as a citizen of the earth, but I do live here. And so it's exciting. It feels messy and scary, and all the cool shit starts messy and scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm scared to death and excited at the same time for the same kind of thing. It's I'm scared of the worst version of what could happen come out of this, and I'm excited to death of what the potential for what could happen is. Because I think the reality is that people are done. They're done watching the power game play what the power game plays. We're done. We get it. We see what you're doing.
We would like to have some of the power, please, and not just we pay for the stadium and go watch the game. We would like to play a little. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we can, because it's our fucking money.
Right.
And at the end of the day, actually, it's our fucking money.
Yeah.
And actually, these people do work for us, and these are our systems and these are our roads, and, it's weird to pretend that that's not true.
Yeah. Because this guy, Dave Smith, he's a podcaster I listen to regularly. He put the premise of is that somehow we got to the point where the middle politically is realistically the most radical version of a government that you could think of. So you take the current left and right, the way super socialist left and the way super alt-right nationalist, right, that kind of thing, and how terrible they sound. But let's talk about what the middle is right now. What the middle is right now is seven wars,
like a Prius with a gun rack.
Well, it's you have, the current middle is 7 wars that have been 10 plus years each, big business bailouts, bank bailouts, just ridiculous spending, deficit spending after all that stuff. And it's which one is really, if you really think about it, which one is more radical, governmentally speaking?
Sure.
You're
talking about different flavors of radical, right? Yeah. You're talking about culturally radical, which is not the middle,
right?
But economically radical, Jesus,
right.
And also yes, the world's greatest spending machine, right. And so history's greatest spending machine, and
right, and if you're in the right industry, the greatest money making machine. If you're selling war, you're a money making master, like nothing that you've ever seen.
When you went into logistics, you should have went into missile logistics.
Yeah, you're right. I should have figured out how to sold guns as part of my game, but yeah,
bro.
Especially now, but like I said, Dave Smith, the podcast released, he put this up, and initially I was like, that's a weird premise that the middle is somehow the extreme. But realistically, what is a government supposed to do? What do we think a government is supposed to do? And is 7 wars, trillions of dollars in spending big bank bailouts, big business bailouts year after year, all these different things. Which one is more radical? Like going full on, like authoritarian, super right, white ethno-national, whatever the fuck you want to do. Is that more extreme than, whatever it is that kills some other people of some other country, whatever we have to do to keep that thing going? Is that more extreme than that?
I guess it's the difference between burning a bag of $10,000 or cutting a credit card with a $100,000 spending limit on it. Yeah, it looks a little, one looks a little more radical, but you're actually like killing yourself softly with, the radical nature of the culture being so far right and left.
Yeah.
It's sort of, that's your noise, right? Because none of the things happening on the right and the left are new ideas. With the exception of some gender politics, like we're talking about neo-Nazism, like this will be over 100 years old soon.
Right.
And so and you're talking about democratic socialism. These are
Marxism. So yeah.
Old.
Right.
And so it's this is the noise, right? All of these things have been happening always, forever. All of these are old things. It's just that we live in an age when people are open about who they are, right? Even if it's completely insane. And so all this to say, that's the spicy stuff. And it paves the way for things like Halliburton. It paves the way for things like the Patriot Act, and it paves all of this, the sexy stuff, paves the way for like unsexy debt, and white collar crime. And it's just because it's so boring and so it's such a cold topic that, it kills you quietly. Right. And so I don't know much about world economies though, so it's hard to say. It in a lot of ways when you're talking about trillions of dollars, it just sounds like monopoly money.
Oh,
we're just
talking,
we're just talking about made up totals that are going to affect babies in 100 years or something like that. I've been promised jetpacks for 20 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
They have them in Dubai though.
Yeah, we don't have our flying cars yet. I mean, Elon Musk is helping us. He's getting there. Do what?
They have one. I think they have one flying car, and it looks scary.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There was that video that was running around of what was it, the Royal Marines jetpack thing where they were flying off of. That was pretty impressive. Yeah.
Looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
But he's got jets on his hands. These are jet gloves. I'm looking jet pack.
That's it. Right. You're correct. That's not what we were promised. It wasn't the Rocketeer.
We're all familiar with Rocket Boy. I need my hands. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, Rocket Boy. We did a song about that. Way to bring it back around.
That's what I'm trying to do.
And how do we finish the show then bringing it all the way back around? All right. So outro music. I love you, man. I really appreciate you doing the show.
It's very mutual.
Jesus Christ, it's Will Wright, everybody. I don't even know how to explain the depth of how much that was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I'm mad that we had a technical glitch, but we did it. We got the chance to talk, and then we'll probably turn the recording off, and we'll keep talking way longer after you guys are done listening to us. But we are Almost in Agreement, almostinagreement.com. Check us out there. We've got all the episodes on there. We're also available on all major podcast providers. If you want to hit us up, almostinagreement@gmail.com. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You can contact us through there. I've got a planning commission meeting on Monday that I'm excited about doing that one, but I'm exhausted. It's been a night. We appreciate everybody for listening. Stick around. Stay tuned. We got more things coming up. fanaticbrewing.com/agreement. If you want to help us out with getting more sponsors, please check out fanaticbrewing.com/agreement. They have sponsored the show, and I drank a whole 6-pack of their IPA while we were doing the show. So Good night, everybody.